Hello everybody, welcome back to another vlog. It's going to be a different one this week though, because I haven't been doing a huge amount of riding because of the weather. So I thought I would take you back to 2012 and talk you through the journey of Obie, because I've had him for nearly 12 years and we've been through a lot together. So grab yourself a cuppa and let's go. So, as I said in my intro, I have nearly had Oberon, or Obie as I call him, for 12 years. I cannot believe that it has been 12 years. That makes me feel very, very old. And we've obviously been through a huge amount together, so much so that I've had to write notes on my laptop so I don't forget anything in this vlog. We've had some major ups, we've had some major lows as well. And I think I just wanted to share with you all what the journey sort of looked like, because even with my Instagram page, I only started that a couple of years ago and he looks like a ready-made horse, but it has been a huge amount of sort of work and effort to get him to that point. So yeah, I thought we'd start. And it's Christmas as well, so I thought I'll do this in front of the Christmas tree and make it Christmassy. So let's start at the beginning. So let's go back to 2012. So just to set the scene, I have just finished from university. I have just moved back home to start my PhD at the local uni. I do still have a horse at this point. So I have my horse, James, who I had when I was a teenager, but he's in his sort of mid-20s, so he's semi-retired. So all I'm sort of doing with him is a bit of hacking and things like that. I'd previously had Sooty, who I'd evented up to 100. I'd only done a couple of B100s on her, pre-novice back then. Again, that's showing my age. But we'd sold her before I went to university. So I came home, I had a horse to ride, to sort of hack and things if I wanted to, but I had no intention of getting back into eventing as sort of heavily as I have done. And I certainly didn't think that I would be sort of buying a youngster and doing that alongside my PhD, because I thought I'm not going to have time. I'm going to do my PhD, then I'm going to get a job, and, you know, horses will just be one of those things I did as a youngster. No, that is not how it went. So I moved back home, and there was a lady in the village who had just moved there, and she bred an awful lot of horses. So she had a more established sort of dressage horse, and she had quite a few youngsters. And I basically looked after her stud while she went on holiday. And then I started riding her horses. And when she realised that I could ride a bit, she said to me, "Oh, I've actually got a 5-year-old that I've sent off for backing, and he'll be coming across in a couple of weeks. Would you like to ride him?" And I thought, well, yeah, your other horses are quite nice. I'm up for that. That'll be fine. And this horse arrived, and she obviously rode him to begin with. It was her horse. And she said to me, you know, if you'd like to start hacking and things, off you go. At the time, we didn't have an arena and things like that. So hacking was kind of the main thing that I did. And I just want to give you a little insight into my first impressions of Obie. So he's sort of 16'1", I think. So it's about 16'1". He was built like a tank. He had about a meter's worth of mane. He was rude, he was bolshy, and he was categorically the fattest horse I've ever seen. And the saddle fitter actually said he was the fattest horse that he'd ever measured to. So I can't get my words out because I'm still in shock about how fat he was. And the saddle fitter saw him 6 months after I had him. So yeah, you can imagine how big he was. He was quite kind of like bolshy on the ground. He wouldn't load. And he'd actually been backed in a kind of Western style. I believe actually he was part of some like university program, and he went to Monty Roberts, and I feel like he broke his arm or something like that. I'm not 100% sure of the details, but there was an incident there, which I'm not surprised about, because Obie as a youngster was a nightmare. So he was sort of broken in this Western way, which meant that every time you went to get on and you took up the reins, he would just go backwards. Which isn't helpful. You couldn't really take up a contact because he didn't know what a contact was. And again, he'd go backwards, but he could neck rein. So, I mean, you know, swings and roundabouts. And it's been helpful as he's got older. He does a cracking rein back. And I think it's just because he knows how to go backwards from a young age. So, yeah, that was kind of how he arrived. And then I rode him for the summer. of 2012, and I started to think he was just easy. He was just nice. He was reliable. He was good out hacking. You know, he'd snatch the rein. He'd stumble. He wasn't great at gates. He was wibbly wobbly. And obviously he was enormous. He wasn't very fit, but I thought, you know, he's just he's fine. He's reliable. And I thought, you know, I think I could make a bit of money on this horse, and I think I could make him, you know, quite smart. And I thought, I'm doing a PhD. I'm not going to have loads and loads of time. So let's take a punt. So I bought him for £2,000. I had him vetted, and the vet did say he's a little bit sticky behind. Like, he passed his flexion tests, but he said there's just something about his behind that he didn't really like. But we bought him anyway, because I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I thought it's probably because he's so overweight as well. So we bought this horse. And the plan really was just to do a bit with him, make him a nice kind of all-rounder, maybe have him for a year or so, and then sell him on. No major plans to get back into eventing. I didn't really have any plans to compete other than to educate him to sell him. But as I started to do bits with him, I started to think, oh, he's quite nice, actually. And I liked the fact that Obie is not spooky. Obie is fantastic out hacking. He is great in the heaviest of traffic. You know, the hunt comes past, that will fry his brain for about 4 days. Or if he sees a runner in a bright t-shirt out hacking, that will fry his brain. But in terms of sort of his reliability, he was really, really good. So I started to think, oh no, he's quite good fun. He's quite nice. So that first year, I'm just going to check my notes. That first year, I really wanted to focus on lessons, getting him stronger, getting him fitter. And I remember taking him to my instructor who I'd had with Sooty, and she said, what have you bought? Like, she was deadly serious. She was like, what is this horse that you've bought? She said, he's unbalanced, his trot's rubbish. And she said, and he cannot canter. Like, he physically couldn't really canter. It was honestly the weirdest thing. So yeah, really weird. And we kind of went from there. I was like, well, I don't know where you go from there, but we kind of worked out Obie's got a really, really good walk. And this instructor was like, right, he's got a really good balanced walk. Let's try walk to canter. And I did walk to canter, walk to canter, walk to canter thousands of times. And I'd literally walk to canter 3 strides back to walk to canter 4 strides back to walk, just to try and get him to balance and hold himself. He was a big horse. He was still growing. I think, was he a 6-year-old by this point? He was a 6-year-old, I think, by this point, 6, 7. And we did finally get there with him. His canter was a work in progress, I would say, for about 4 years. But now his canter is super strong, and his walk to canters are one of the best things of his test. So it was worth putting the effort in. But that first year, it was all about the lessons, local arena hires. I didn't have an arena at home, so it was just about building up his experience and his sort of knowledge. So that was sort of 2012, and then going on into 2013. 2013, I started to take him like cross-country schooling. I took him to like small unaffiliated dressage, and he got good scores out at dressage, actually, which was a shock to the system, because my previous 2 horses did not get good dressage scores. So I started to think, right, okay, this horse is quite nice. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of these early years, particularly. I didn't have my Instagram account, as I said. We didn't really take videos in the same way. So I'll piece together a little bit of this first, the bits that I have of him as a sort of raw 6, 7-year-old at the end of this section. But yeah, I really wish I had a video of that very first day that I got him, because he was interesting. But yeah, as I said, I was putting the work in, and I thought, right, I'm going to enter just a little one-day event, and let's just see how he gets on. So the date of the first one-day event was the end of 2013. This was like the September time. And I decided to go to Ellen Lodge, and I did the unaffiliated 80. Sorry, Elsa's making an appearance now. So I did the unaffiliated 80. And if anybody's been to Ellen Lodge, you know that the courses are on the beefier side. So I remember walking it and thinking, this horse can barely canter. Like, I know I can do some cracking walk to canters and then do about 5 strides, but he just still wasn't at that place where he was, you know, strong and able to do kind of a whole course. But I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, let's just let's just see, and then we know what we've got to work on as well. So we went across to Ellen Lodge. And I have to say, at the time, my strongest phase was show jumping, believe it or not, because that is not the case now. But my dressage was shocking. I used to hate dressage. And one thing I will say about Obie is he has taught me so much about flat work, and I love dressage now. Absolutely love it. So thank you for that, Obie. But what I found was when we were going to the unaffiliated dressage competitions, he was getting goodish scores. I went eventing. He got very excited. He got very tense. He got very kind of head bobby, I think was the thing. So he'd sort of be going down the centre line. He'd be like, I'm trying to hold it together, but he wouldn't really be holding the rein, and we wouldn't really have a good contact. So the scores, unfortunately, didn't really translate eventing in the early days. We did get there eventually, but it took an awful lot of time. But yes, I took him to Ellen Lodge, and we got a double clear. His dressage was like a 37, I think, but we got a double clear, and you'll see in the footage, because I've got this footage, he did fantastic. He was brilliant. We did have quite a few places on the cross country because it's quite hilly where we had to trot, but he nailed it. And I thought, you know what? Maybe this horse could do a couple of 90s. I thought that was probably his ceiling, but yeah, it started to get the seed of this horse is pretty mega going. So I'm going to stop for this section, and you can watch some of the footage of our very first one-day event. Lennon Lodge, I thought, right, this horse he's all right. So maybe if I do some 90s with him, some affiliated 90s, then I can bump the price of him and sell him. I still had selling him in the back of my mind at this point. So I signed up to British Eventing. Off we went to give our first 90 a crack at Obie, and I fell off in the show jumping. Back then, you were able to get back on, but I really hurt myself. I really, really did hurt myself. And I put it down to the fact that it was his first affiliated one-day event. We'd worked our arses off with winter training, so he was super fit, and we were losing the light. So I don't know if anybody was in at Obie in 2014 in March, but it got dark. By the time it was the 90, I wouldn't have been able to run cross country anyway. And I just think for his first 90, it was a sort of brown oxer that he just came into. He misread it and he sort of catapulted over it, flung me out. It actually wasn't meant to be, and that was fine. So we sacked that off and we were like, right, let's crack on. Let's do some more 90s. And as I said, his dressage didn't really translate from what he was capable of because, as most young horses do, he got quite excited. He couldn't really hold it together. I also was rubbish back then on the flat, and I used to go to my dressage test and be like, yeah, let's just get through this. Let's just do the best we can, but not really putting much effort in. So that was kind of the vibe we were going with. And at the time, I also decided to buy a 4-year-old. So I had Obie, who had just got eventing, and I also bought a little 4-year-old as well, who I was riding alongside him. But I would never have done that if I hadn't have had Obie. And although Obie was sort of a 6-year-old when I bought him, he'd not really done anything other than the Western stuff. So I really felt like I'd sort of taught him, and I thought, oh yeah, I'd like another youngster to sort of run alongside. So I had the two of them, and he kind of set me up for the skills to do that. But 2014, sorry, sidetrack there. 2014, I did 4 90s in total that season. We didn't really do amazingly, but we didn't do terribly. And the one thing that I found we really struggled with was holding it together in the dressage, but also getting the time cross country. And I think that was something with Obie that I had to work quite hard on, that actually he often felt like he was going quite quickly, and I had to really set him up for his fences. But actually, on reflection, I wasn't going nearly as fast enough. And I sort of learned a bit later on to take the handbrake off. So that was 2014. So I was really pleased. I thought, this horse came from going backwards when he got on, couldn't get him on the horse box, all this jazz, to, we've just done our first season of 90s. He's done them really well. And I was really excited about the following season, 2015. And I thought, I've evented up to 100 before. Let's maybe think about pushing this horse up to 100. And this was kind of the turning point where I thought, I'm going to keep this horse now, much to my family's delight. But so that winter 2014, I put lots of work in, and I thought, right, let's go do some 90s, let's go do some 100s, let's do this. And our winter training went fantastically. He was growing in confidence. We were doing unaffiliated dressage. We were sort of doing novice tests. And then we went for our last training session a week before our first event, which was at Aston Wolds, I believe, and disaster struck. I will insert a picture. If you're squeamish, please do look away. But I took Obie to surface cross country, and I said to my now husband, I'm just going to jump this last line. It's a drop into the water, through the water, step out of water, shoulder brush. And as I was coming out of the water, he totally misread it, and he smacked into the front of this step, flipped over. I hit the deck. I did have a body protector on, but I managed to puncture my lung, smashed in my face, gave myself vertigo, which I actually had for nearly a year. It was postural vertigo, but that was an absolute nightmare. And there's nothing worse. I've been a horse owner now for, I don't know, since I was like 12, 13. There is nothing worse than looking across and seeing your horse lying on its back, and he looked like he was struggling. Actually, I don't think he was struggling. I think he was trying to avoid me, bless him. But that was just one of the worst sights I've ever seen. And I had to go to hospital. I was in hospital for a couple of days. And then I was told strictly 6 weeks before you can get on. I had to have another lung check. And Obie actually went to Tina Canton at Tinderbox Sports Horses because I wanted to keep him fit, and I also wanted somebody else to take him jumping and do a couple of steps just for my own kind of sanity. So she had him and she took him cross country schooling, and he was absolutely fantastic. He was fine. He had quite a bit of physio as well to make sure he was all okay. But my confidence was absolutely shot to pieces. I'd never really had an accident like that before. And I remember going to Tina's and going to get on. I had a friend with me, and I stood on the mounting block and I said, I don't think I can get on. And she laughed, because I've always been very much, you go for it, you crack on, it'll all be fine. And I said, no, I'm being serious. I don't know if I can get on. And she said, well, just sit on him and see how you get on. And I sat on him, and obviously it's Obie. He was like, yay, Mum, you're back. And I had a bit of a walk and a trot, and I thought, oh yeah, I feel okay, that's fine. And then when I got off, it sort of came back each time. So like once I was on, I was relatively okay and I could get back into it. But the thought of getting on was just terrible. And it was actually the 4-year-old that I had at the time, who was still at home, that helped give me my confidence back. I think because I hadn't had the accident on her. She was still learning. We were doing really easy, fun stuff that was well within my comfort zone. She sort of helped build me back up. But that year, I actually decided the best thing to do would be to enter a 100 in the May. So I had my accident in March, and in the May, I thought, this is a great idea. And we had another incident cross country where he cat leaped over this fence. We shouldn't have gone. I don't think we were ready. I don't think my confidence was ready, but I felt like I've almost got to do it to prove to myself I can do it. He cat leaped this fence. He bashed my nose and I was bleeding. So we retired on the cross country, because I was like, this is just not very happy. But as he cat leaped, he actually caught his leg, which he was then intermittently lame for the whole season, which at the time was really, really stressful. The vets kept saying it's his hocks. We had his hocks injected, and I kept arguing that I didn't think it was his hocks. Turns out it was his fetlock. Sometimes, you should follow your gut, which I would do now, but back then I was like, oh, the vet says it's his hocks, so I'll just go with it. So it took really like a long time to get him sort of back up and running and comfortable. But actually, in reflection, I think that was the year that I needed that. I needed the break. I needed the headspace. I needed to get my confidence back up. I was riding my 4-year-old, who was, I think, maybe 5 then, an awful lot more. And it was just, probably the best thing, although, really expensive on your old insurance and stuff like that. So at the end of that year, so at the end of 2015, my now husband proposed to me. He always says that seeing me smash into the floor, because he was there when I fell off Obie, made him realise how much he loved me and wanted to be with me. So if anything else good came out of that year, it was the fact that, my husband proposed to me. So thank you for that, Obie, as well. But at the end of that year, I did decide I need a bit more help and support. So at home, we only had the field. I was hacking an awful lot, but on my own. And so a good friend of mine who owns a livery yard said, look, just come and keep him here for a couple of months, get yourself ready for the event season. And that was then 2016. And I was due to be there for a month, and I actually stayed for 8 months. And it was fantastic, because I had sort of ongoing support with her. I had the arena, there was a horse walker. We were sort of rehabbing him from his fetlock injury, so it was the perfect place to be. And I went from being absolutely terrified of a Pony Club 90, and I cried in the start box, and I was shaking, and I thought I was going to vomit. Of course, Obie went clear inside the time, because he's fantastic. I think he even came 9th for that one. But that year I went from being terrified in the start box for the 90, and then completing Norton Disney Novice, which I did technically get eliminated from, but in my head we completed, and Obie thinks he completed a novice, so that's what we go with. And to go from that in one season was absolutely fantastic. And I would probably say that 2016 was the year that I'm sort of most proud of with us, like to come back from horse injury, rider injury, and we did all sorts that year. We came 13th at Little Downham in the 100. We got a double clear. Norton Disney Novice, as I said, like to even enter a novice and give it a good crack. Unfortunately, the really annoying thing about Norton Disney is I felt like that day just didn't go our way. So in the show jumping, we lost a shoe 4 fences before the end, and then he had the last 4 down. And I do think if he hadn't lost that shoe, he probably would have gone clear, because his show jumping was absolutely cracking at the time. And then cross country, I had one run out because I rode like a pencil and my leg got stuck behind my saddle. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And then I got eliminated. I can't even remember the why. It was a technical elimination. I must have done something. I should probably find out what that is so I don't do it again. But I was super proud of that, that we did all of that that year. And I also made some decisions around my instructors as well. So I changed flatwork instructor, and that's when my scores really started to improve. I've really started to enjoy the flatwork. And the pre-2016 Jess, if you said to her, you are, riding like elementary level tests, would have been like, what's elementary? I don't even know what that is. So changing flatwork instructor was really beneficial to me. And I also got a show jumper to help me with the show jumping as well, which is why I said his show jumping was cracking at the time, because this show jumper was brilliant and really kind of unleashed something in Obie that I didn't really know was there. So 2016 was just a fantastic year for us. So I will stop there and insert some footage of the Ginger Ninja. Okay, so 2017, I moved home from the livery yard, and my parents made the amazing decision, thanks guys, to build an arena at home. So I suddenly had an arena at home, which was just amazing. And my plan was to keep jumping at novice level. I thought I'll do some 100s, I'll do some meter fives, and then we'll crack on with novices because he's more than capable. And that year was really like a tale of two halves. So the highlights that year was I came 10th at Kiso in the 100. Kiso was a notoriously quite beefy track. And I also came 5th at Burnham Market. And I would have come 2nd, but I went too fast on the cross country. So those years where I was struggling to get around a 90 inside the time we've taken the handbrake off, but we're now going too fast. And I thought this bodes well for us wanting to make the step up. And for one reason or another, just 1.5 metre and novice was just one step too far for Obie. He's more than capable of jumping a course of show jumps at 1.10 metre height. I think I've got some footage in the next bit where he goes clear at Aston Wells in 1.10 metre. But it was just the combinedness of the day. I just used to feel like as we were jumping around the bigger courses, mainly on the cross country, he would just start to feel tired. And I was never sure if it was like he was physically tired or if it was kind of like a mental tiredness. But he started to just get a little bit stickier at the bigger fences. And I just thought, I really, really want to get to novice, but not at the expense of making my horse really, really unhappy and pushing him past the point where he feels kind of comfortable. So that was a really tough pill to swallow. And I've cried an awful lot about the fact Obie hasn't been my novice horse. I always hold on to Norton Disney because to me, we completed, he finished the course, he finished the show jumps, he finished the cross country. But we just never got there again. And it was just very, very frustrating. But, that's horses. And that was actually the point where I decided to keep Obie, but that perhaps my little, I think she was a 6-year-old then, my 6-year-old, who was a bit small for me anyway, would be sold and I would get something to try and reach this novice dream, which is why we then bought Franco. And the eventing for Obie took a bit of a back seat and I thought I'll still go out and kind of enjoy him at 100 level, but it's not going to be the sort of, flat work lesson a week, jumping lesson every other week, physio every 4 weeks, if he's not going to be the horse to take me on to do my dream. But I am going to look at a bit more dressage with him. So I started doing unaffiliated dressage again. I was doing novice tests. We stepped up to elementary and he started to really, really shine with the dressage. But he still did also kind of enjoy the jumping. So I was quite torn in terms of what I wanted to do. He was still eligible. Well, he still is eligible for Badminton Grassroots. So I did consider kind of aiming him for that. And I did a couple of events in sort of 2018, 2019. So he came 4th at Kiso in the 90. I think he got 27 double clear inside the time. And then we did the 100 at Kiso where he came 12th. But I did just start to feel like, I'm not sure if he's really loving this. And obviously I was trying to run Franco alongside as well. But the other thing that Obie was doing, which was just fantastic, is Obie has got a really, really good talent of giving people confidence. So my husband started to learn to ride on him. I have a friend whose daughter also learned to ride on him. She didn't learn to ride on him. She learned to sort of jump high, like bigger fences on him. And that's actually translated in these sort of past few years with the lovely Shelley at Everyday Eventers, who's taken him to like cross country schooling. She's come to mind to ride him a couple of times as well. So he does really, really enjoy people that enjoy riding him. So that has been something the past couple of years that has been lovely to be like, okay, we didn't get to novice and that was kind of the dream, but the amount of kind of schooling and effort and everything I've put into him means that now other people can enjoy him. And that is fantastic. Like I loved watching Shelley jump him. That was just like, absolutely amazing. So that was 2018, 2019, 2020, we had COVID. I also had my first child. So Obie didn't do a huge amount that year. And then in 2021, I wanted to get back out eventing after having my first child. And I thought, I'm not taking Franco first. I'm going to take good old reliable Obie. And I just entered the 90 at Aston Wells, the affiliated 90. And he did really well. I think he finished like 9th or something like that. He did a cracking dressage test. We finally nailed the dressage. But I came over the finish line and I thought, I don't know if he really loved that. I feel like he was more doing it for me. And I thought, he's getting on a bit now. There's just no need for him to be doing it. He's given me the confidence to get back out. It was lovely that I could do sort of one last event on him. But yeah, I just decided like enough is enough. And then sort of 2022. So last year, getting lost for the years, that was last year, wasn't it? He just had a quieter life. And to be honest with you, I was really unsure what I was going to do with him because I thought, I'm never going to sell him now. Never going to sell him. He is worth his weight in gold. But I thought he's too talented and he's too much of a good horse to do nothing. But I didn't really do a huge amount. He just did some hacking. As I say, Shelley came across and rode him. I did some hunter trial pairs with Shelley with her lovely horses, which he did really enjoy. But I didn't really have much of a plan until this year where I thought, right, I'm going to do some British dressage, which I'm going to be honest, scared me, which is why I hadn't done it before. But I thought, no, I'm going to do it before he gets too old. Let's do it. And so this year we've done one prelim, 4 novices, and he has improved every single time. I think his worst placing is second. And I found out last week that he's qualified for the area festivals next year.
Close your eyes, hear the voice within, calling. This heavy load got under your skin, howling. You got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feelings bottled up inside, heading for a collision in the night. To really live, you gotta die. Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors, colors, colors. Right. Moments pass, make this one count. Untie. You're so good at dragging yourself down. Why? Well, there ain't much time left to figure things out. Deep underneath all the laser, your doubts. There's a heart gone out of rhythm in despair. Held underwater, fine for air. Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors, colors, colors around. You got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feels bottled up inside, heading for a collision in the night. To really live, you gotta die. Close your eyes, hear the voice within, calling. This
that's certainly not the end of our story, but he has just been one hell of a horse. Like, from that scruffy, fat, rude, bolshy 6-year-old that really didn't have a bloody clue, to the gorgeous, like, competitive, confident, strong horse that he is now is just fantastic. And I'm so lucky to have a horse like Obie. He has taught me so much. I absolutely love the flat work now, thanks to him. He's taught me that it's not always kind of roses and your horse isn't going to just do it for you. I think I'd had 2 horses before that were very experienced and very sort of competent and confident in themselves. And actually, Obie taught me that you do need to get your leg on and you do need to know what stride you're on. You do need to set them up correctly because not all horses are going to just take you. But yeah, he's taught me no end and I absolutely love him. And he's going to be with me till the end of his days. But that feels like a whistle stop tour. To you guys, it probably you're thinking, oh my God, I really want her to shut up now. But I hope you've enjoyed that vlog, and I hope that's given, if you're having trouble with your horse at the minute, just think 10 years time, you're going to be like me. You're going to have a horse at home that's just bloody brilliant. So keep on going. It's worth it in the end. From a horse that wouldn't go over ditches, I think I missed that from my story. First cross-country schooling, wouldn't go over ditches. Then taking Shelley round and just popping over every ditch you could see. They do learn and they are worth it. So keep going. And I hope you've enjoyed this vlog. It has been very different. I am planning to do one of these about Frankham as well. If you've enjoyed it, please do like, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you next time.